Hello and welcome. You're listening to Village Mama, a podcast that inspires us moms to pause in the midst of our busyness, to connect with each other, and to know that we are not alone on this parenting journey. My name is Charlex, and I'm a transformation coach and mom of two, and I create e-courses for busy moms to help guide them on their journey of self-discovery. Each week, I'm sitting down with moms to talk about their journey of parenting and the lessons that they have learned. I want you to consider this your community. I want you to consider us your tribe. Come on in and relax a bit because you are always welcomed in the Village Mama. Hello and welcome, Jessa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So why don't you share with our listeners a little bit about you?
I'm a stay-at-home mom to a 7-year-old beautiful son who was born in Ethiopia. So I'm an adoptive parent. And prior to this, I worked in wellness. I worked in aromatherapy. But for the last 6 years, I've been home with my son. And yeah.
Nice. Tell me a little bit about the process of adoption for you, because this has been something on my heart for years. And we talked about that before a little bit, but it's something that we haven't actually gotten to that point of doing. So every time I hear of other people who've done it, I'm like, tell me your story. I really want to know. So yeah, what was that process like for you?
Oh, wow. It was hard. It is. It's funny because I don't know, if you ever read message boards or things and people talk about infertility, somebody will say, why don't you just adopt to the person? And it sounds like such an easy alternative, like, oh, we'll just go adopt. And it's not. It took us 5 years, the process. You have to really be prepared, I think, if I was going to tell someone about adoption, and not even the parenting aspect, but just going into the process, you need to be prepared that your life becomes an open book. Things that you would never think you're going to talk to any stranger about, you're going to be talking about. You have to really kind of be prepared to say goodbye to your privacy in that sense, because they're going to know everything. And I mean, not just like you're going to have blood tests, you're going to be fingerprinted. There's all the more practical aspects of it that are work, but then there's, you're going to be meeting with social workers. They're going to need to know your childhood, your marriage, everything. They want to know every little bit about you because you're going to be parenting a vulnerable child. So it's important. It's all important. It's all for a very good reason, but it's intense. It's an intense process to really dissect who you are and who you will be as a parent and what has made you who you are today. And are there any things you need to work on before you bring a child who's experienced their own trauma into your life? It's, sorry, it sounds so, I don't mean that in a discouraging way. I just mean it in, you have to kind of be an open book, and you have to really be willing to look at yourself in ways that you probably never really would if you weren't doing this. And it's important too. Like it's at times it can feel a little violating, but it's not just because they're trying to be nosy, but it's because you're bringing in a child who's already gone through trauma. Like they need to know that you can keep this child happy, healthy, safe, that you can be happy, healthy, and safe. And so it's an intense process. And then, on top of that, it's, you have all those other aspects. You have the financial aspect. When we were doing our adoption, we went through so there was a adoption agency in Cambridge in Ontario that, committed fraud and went bankrupt. I should know this because I was one of the victims, but I think they were prosecuted a couple years ago now. And so that was huge. That was 400 families in Canada, and it had never happened before in Canada. That were suddenly, for many of us, this was our chance to be a parent. This was it. This was our one shot. And that was really devastating. And we're really lucky that another agency came in and rescued us. But there's so much kind of, I think, risk involved when you put your heart on the line, and there's no guarantees. And I think that is probably the number one thing I would tell people going into adoption. It's amazing. It's exciting. It was the best chance we had of being parents. We wanted to adopt long before we even went through infertility. I was like, we are adopting. I myself am adopted, but it's not a guarantee. Like it's not. Countries close programs if you do international. If a country shuts down, that's it. Like you're out. Everything you kind of put into it is gone. And then a domestic adoption, they might change their mind. Like a biological mother might change her mind, which is absolutely her right, but it's hard. Like I think people think that if you adopt, it's guaranteed you're going to get a child, and it's not. Like it's not, and it's hard, and it's so there's nothing I would change about the outcome, but I also had the outcome, right? Like I had the ideal outcome. I became a parent, but it's not easy. It's definitely, it's not easy. And I know I look at it probably through my own rose-colored glasses in a way, because I am the positive outcome. But I know when I was in it, how, especially I think when this is your one chance to have a child, like you don't have the distractions of other kids. You're not already called mom. Like you're waiting, and every year that goes by is really exhausting and hard. And it takes a lot of support, I think, to like, you want to have your supports in place, because it's a big process, and a lot of women in it have already gone through, or a lot of women and men in it have already gone through infertility and gone through their own losses. So they're already, kind of worn down and pretty exhausted before they get to this. And it's not easy. I mean, it's worth it. There's no other way I would want to be a parent, because I believe with all my heart that my son is meant to be in our family. We fit together like nothing in this world. We're just meant to be. I believe our souls were meant to be long ago. Like it's just, we're so attached. But anyone who's starting out in adoption, I would say like just, and some people have really easy adoptions and some people don't. Some people wait years, some people don't. But it's important to really have your village, supporting you, and reach out to people in your situation too. Because if you're not in the process, you might, lots of times you don't understand the process. And it's important to find those support groups and the support networks and there's lots, even on Facebook, where you can go and you read people's stories, and people, they're in it with them. And I think that makes all the difference in the world when you're having a hard day and they know. And so that was the process. It was a lot of work.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think when you're on this part of the equation and you're looking at the possibility, you don't know what that road really entails. And so it's really helpful to hear someone who's gone through it share their experience. And yes, not every experience is going to be similar, but even just to have an idea of what it could possibly be like, I think is helpful. So why don't you share with us a little bit about that moment when you really were getting close to adopting your little guy, and what that experience was like for you and your hubby?
Oh my goodness. It was amazing. It was, the funniest thing was when I had all these plans in my head of when we were going to get the referral. So the phone call that says, we have a little boy ready for you, or a little girl. And we had already named him Oz, or Ossington, but Oz for short. And so in my head, I had this grandiose plan. I was going to make like a yellow brick road, like welcome to Oz, and put his picture at the end of it. It was going to be pretty amazing. I was like, this is how it's going down. And then the phone call comes out of nowhere. And I planned to, because I'd read someone else's story online and how she didn't look at the picture of her baby, like the referral picture, until her husband was home, which also sounds so lovely. Totally didn't do that either. I got the phone call, and we'd just been in New York. And so the social worker, Eve, was like, well, how was your trip? And I was like, she never calls me. I'm like, it was fine. Like, I wasn't sure, like, is this the call or what is going on here? And she was like, I'm looking at the most beautiful little 2-month-old baby. I start crying. I'm going to cry just telling the story, because it was just so amazing. And of course I looked at him. She sends me the picture. I'm like, I can't make a dog. Like, I can't do this. And plans went completely out. Like, he came home. There was no yellow brick road, because I was just too excited. I called him at work. crying. It was just amazing. I called my mom crying. Like it was just incredible. And then to just that moment of seeing his little face and just like, I think we just kept looking at him going, he has fingers, he has toes. Like, it's incredible. Like he has eyeballs. Like he's just, I mean, we were fairly like, everything just amazed us. And then it was like, again, we didn't have like, it was funny. We were one of 3 families in North America who were caught up in this paperwork issue. So we waited a very long time. We were almost a year 9 months till we got to go to court. So Ethiopia changed its laws at that point. You had to do 2 trips. You had to go to court and then travel back. By the time we got ready to go to court, it was just incredible to get on that, like, even though it wouldn't be the trip we could go and bring him home, just to get on that airplane and just go to Ethiopia. I didn't know how much I would love Ethiopia. Like it was on my heart. I knew the second, like, they called and said, like, these are the countries, like, I knew it was Ethiopia. It was one of those moments in my life where when people say, like, do you ever really hear God's voice telling you the direction? I'm like, I've never heard God's voice louder or clearer as when they read off the countries in Ethiopia. It was just Ethiopia. I mean, it was just echoing, just from inside, from outside. I knew Ethiopia was where I was meant to be, and I knew Ethiopia was where my baby was. Like, just without a doubt, my baby was in Ethiopia and I was going to go find him. And so going there, but I mean, in all honesty, I didn't know a lot about Ethiopia. I didn't really know what to expect. And I went there and I didn't know how much I would love it. Just love it. And it's so important because that's part of your child. That's part of your family. Like, really, like, Ethiopia is like the 4th family member for us, like that amazing country. And so going there and just falling in love with it was so amazing. And then getting to see him was, just to actually walk in the room and see him there and just, it's incredible. I mean, for me, it was love at first sight. And I know that's not everyone's story in adoption. So I'm going to throw that out there because not everybody feels that, and that's fine. For me, it was just instantaneous. I just want to hold this child and bring him home with me. And it was just the best moment of my life. Actually, no, that wasn't the best moment of my life. The best moment of my life was when we were in court and we were in this little room with the judge, and there was 2 other couples with us. And when we finished answering our questions, and sorry, I'm going to get totally emotional. When the judge said, he's yours. That was just the most amazing moment. And just to have that, like, it was 5 years of adoption. It was almost, I'm trying to think, it was about 8 years of us trying to be parents. And it was just, everything was just perfect. When I look back, I think, like, when we talk about God's plan, I just think it was perfect. Everything worked out perfectly. Everything. The bankruptcy. Without the bankruptcy, I wouldn't have this child. Like, every single thing that went wrong went so right. I look back and I think it couldn't have gone any other way. It just couldn't have gone any other way. And it was so amazing because I remember that whenever I get frustrated or you think, like, what's going on? What's the future? I think about what the past was and the fact that God has never failed us, ever. God knows. And in the most important, hugest way, like, I think God brought our family together on the other side of the world. Like, that is so powerful. And it's, it's our every day, it's our every moment, it's our every second. So it's easy to remember God's power and glory and love and faithfulness.
That's awesome. Oh my goodness. I love hearing things like this. Oh my gosh, my heart. Okay, so Jessa, so once you bring him home and now you have to, like, buckle down to raise a child, what was that like for you?
The parenting. In some ways it was really easy. I had been a nanny also before. And so in the sense of the everyday, the nitty gritty, the cooking, cleaning, changing bums, that was all very easy. However, when you're adopting a child who's been in an orphanage or been exposed, you're adopting a child who's experiencing trauma, So you have a child with special needs, special emotional, needs. And that was hard. It continues to be a struggle in terms of, and learning to find resources. I think that ended up being the biggest thing that I would want people to know and to look for, and to not be afraid to ask for help. Because I think I just thought, I'm a parent and I should just be really excited about this. And I am really excited about this, but oh my goodness, this is hard. And I don't want to complain. I don't want anybody to know that this is hard or what's happening, and when I would open up a little bit, lots of times people meaning so well, but would be like, oh, my kid does that. Or I know someone else's kid who did this. And in the back of my brain, I kept thinking, but this isn't something's wrong. Like, this isn't okay. But I didn't want to sound like I was complaining. And that really held me back from getting help sooner. I've heard that's very common. When I finally reached out for help, they said a lot of times that's what happens is adoptive families, like, they just really feel like they should not be able to complain because this is what we wanted. This is what we asked for. This is what we worked for. So how can we sit back and complain that this is hard or tiring? And I wish I asked for help sooner. We did end up asking for help, and we continue to ask for help, and we have a fairly big, large amount of resources now and people, but I wish I'd asked for help sooner, for it, and not just for me, for him. Like, it just would have been more cohesive if we'd worked on things sooner, just how the supports, because it is hard. Like, when you're parenting a child with special needs and who comes from a hard background, it's hard, because children who come from a hard place will ask for love in ways that aren't particularly easy. And it's helpful when you know that, because you can it helps me when I'm having a bad day, because I can come at it with compassion of where he's been and everything he's going through, and how overwhelming it is for him to be in working through his little brain, which he describes as, he often talks about it being like a tornado. Like a tornado comes over him, and he doesn't know what to do. And we've come so far working through that, but we wouldn't have been able to do that if we'd continued to kind of think, let's just, figure this out and not ask for help. And we should just be happy we're parents. And it would have done an incredible injustice to him as well. Like, that would have been the biggest tragedy, I think, if we'd kept kind of going down our own path and trying to do it on our own. Because, I think anytime you're a parent and you're having a hard time, it's important to realize that there are experts out there who know more than you, and you can go and, it's important to find them. In terms of trauma, there are not a lot of experts. There are very few. So it's important to find people who actually know what they're doing, because, when we go into school meetings or whatever, we're very aware that they don't really have a background in this. And they're very open about that too, because it's very limited. It's a very small amount of people who've studied the effects of trauma on the brain in children. And so it's important to find people who do know what they're doing as well, who know what they're doing. And it's important to reach out to those people. And that's made a world of difference. And that would be my biggest advice to people, is get help, because you're gonna, it's for your child. Like, don't rob your child of help because you are afraid of looking ungrateful or like bad parents or like any of that. Like, and I would say that for any kind of special needs, really. Like, I just feel like with adoption, we have that added layer of, well, you wanted to be parents. So you are being parents and you're exhausted, but it's important, and it makes a huge difference. And we've come so far with all that help and with all those resources. But anytime you're adopting a child, especially a child who comes from a hard place, be it an orphanage, be it foster care, you also have to realize you're adopting a child with special needs. Like, that's the reality of it, because that would be anyone, and it's not that these children are any different from us. It's just, that's the reality of being, of survival, really. These kids, like, I look at my son all the time, and he's a survivor. And he's learned to survive, and there's some ways he's learned to survive that we have to go in and we have to try to work through, but he's a survivor, and that's huge. I mean, we, like, to be working, and he fights that stuff every day. Like every day I watch him work through incredible things, incredible feats, whether it's just him going to school and us getting to school that day and him going into school that day, or it's going to swim class and him being able to go in the pool by himself. Like and that's where you get these amazing gifts that you, like, I wouldn't want to miss, because every day I get to see like somebody overcome this incredible obstacles. And I think that's part of what keeps you going. Like as a parent, like you get to see like these, I always say, like when you watch kind of those, like, like those, like the Lifetime movies. And at the end, you get all teary eyed because you're like, oh my goodness, they did it. They won the race or whatever. Like I get to see that every day. I watch him every day. And I think, oh my gosh, like that moment where he really was about to get upset, but he managed to like talk himself down, and it was 60 seconds, but it was the most amazing 60 seconds ever. Like he did it and it's incredible. Or like you get to see all these incredible things of humanity, like just human strength and human perseverance that I would never get to see otherwise. And I get to see it every day. And there's just nothing more inspiring. Like it's just, you can't help be inspired, and you learn so much. My 7-year-old has taught me more than anyone's taught me ever. And to see him work so hard to carry on, it makes it easier for us as parents. Because we're like, he's doing the hard work. Like he's in there, he's doing it. It makes it so much easier for us.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. And I love what you said about the idea that our kids are our teachers. And I think that so often we come into parenthood and feel like we have so much to share with our kids, so much to offer our kids. It's almost like they're sponges and they can soak up all of our knowledge. But I think at some point when you come to this place of realization that our kids are actually our teachers too, it's so healthy for a family dynamic to actually operate from that space.
Yeah, I think, and I do. I mean, I've learned so much from him. And one of the things also, I think that is really fortunate in the sense that we have to, as parents, as just humans, we're forced to work through things we would otherwise not have to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's just, we're in it, and that, it's forced us to really, and we've had to do like family therapy. Like when Oz is in his own trauma, it triggers our trauma. Mm-hmm. So we've had to just dive in, dissect ourselves, put ourselves back together. And that's been incredible, because there's things I wouldn't have overcome if I wasn't in this situation. And I always say to people, like, Doug and I are really lucky because we can't really be mediocre parents. We can't be. Like it's our daily life is so kind of complex that we're called to always kind of be on and always do the very best we have, because we have to keep him safe. And that's the number one thing. We wake up every day. My goal every day is to make him feel incredibly loved, to help him know he is loved beyond anything in this world, and to keep him safe. Those are really my goals every single day. And some days are harder than others. But because of that, we have to do so much work. And that's been amazing. Like we just wouldn't be the people we are today without him. And that would be a grave loss for us, I think. We wouldn't be the husband and wife we are. He's given us so much. In all the things we've had to work through, he's just given us more than we ever imagined. There's just nothing that compares to kind of every single gift he's given us, beyond just the amazing gift of being parents and being called mom and dad. That in itself, I think the first time your child calls you mom is huge. We waited years for that, and I don't think we had any idea of the gift we'd just be given in terms of our own growth. Like we've just grown up a lot. We've all grown up a lot together.
Oh, that's beautiful. And so I'm really curious. So what do you think it means to be a mindful and intentional mom in this day and age?
Oh, that's an amazing question. I think in this day and age, we have so much distraction. It's just constant distraction. And I think it's making sure you're still listening to your child, sitting down and listening to them when they're not talking, like just paying attention. and even planning those and when you need those conversations, like planning those conversations. And I think we just get so focused on everything outside, everything, and I'm certainly, I like things clean and I like things tidy and I like things this, but there's a time to just drop it all and sit and listen to your child and have those moments. Funny, in church on Sunday, he was preaching about Martha and Mary. Mm-hmm. How Martha's running around and tidying up, and she's all frustrated because Mary's sitting at Jesus's feet and listening. And that, I think, encompasses what I would call, consider mindful parenting, sitting at your child's feet and listening, really humbling yourself to them and listening to them and
valuing what they have to say too.
Exactly, because it's a relationship, and relationships go two ways, and it's no different when it's your child. Just because they're 3, 2, 4, 5, 10, 15 doesn't mean they're going to be a future person. Mm-hmm. Creating future adults. So it's really important you understand where they're at as a child, because that child will be an adult one day. And I want to like my child. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Like my child. My child is, I have more fun with him than just about anybody. I have so much fun with him, but it's been created, I think, because of all those moments we have together, all those laughter moments, all the moments when we just talk, all the moments when we just cry. And if you're not having those moments, how's that relationship growing? It's like any other relationship.
It's interesting because I've actually never even thought about that New Testament story in that way before. And so you just even sharing that, I'm my mind is buzzing right now. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's really interesting. So as a mom, am I cooking and cleaning and doing all that stuff? Or am I being intentional and sitting there with my kids? That's some good perspective right there. So thank you for that, because now this is stuff that I love, this kind of stuff to chew on and process and overanalyze. So thank you for that, because I'm going to keep on overanalyzing that one for a bit, right? So that's good. So when it comes to parenting Oz, if you were to look back at your younger self and you could send her this handwritten letter that she would receive in the mail, what would you put in that letter?
I think it would just be one sentence. I think I would just say, you are enough. You are enough. Because my goodness, if I had moments where I have felt like anything but enough, then that would be the most important thing. Beating yourself up, nobody wins.
Ain't that the truth? And so if you can pass on a blessing, so if Oz happened one day in the future to come across this recording and you could give him one blessing, what would it be?
I think I would bless him with the wisdom to know he's enough.
And so this is going to be our final question. I want to thank you so much for being here and sharing your experience with the other moms who are out there, moms who might have gone through their road of adoption, moms who might be thinking about it. What words of wisdom do you have for both of those different groups of moms?
I believe you are given the children you're meant to have. So those children are in your care, or the future children will be in your care because you're meant to be their mom. And knowing that makes everything easier.
You've now reached the end of another episode of Village Mama. If you're enjoying it, I would love for you to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes, and also give it a 5-star review on iTunes. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. So until next time, keep treating yourself and others with compassion and grace. Take care.